Amazing. Hi, Sheila.
Hi. Hi,
How are
Robin. How are
you?
you? I'm good, thank you. I'm good.
How is life treating you?
Life is treating me well. I just came back from a holiday day before yesterday, so I can't complain. Life is good. I'm currently looking at the rainy British weather, but I've got the holiday in my mind, so that's it's keeping me going.
Where did you go? I can't keep up with your travels.
I was in Romania, so I've been there before, but I went back this time on a couple's holiday. But I had gone there last year on a girls' holiday. But it's basically the spa in Romania that is like £30 entry. Um, access all areas, 50 saunas, 20. It's just amazing. You need to go there. I keep saying this to people, but I can't explain it. You just have to go there.
Okay, you're gonna have to send me the link after because what? £30?
Yes, yes, it's £30 entry. It's about 68 lei, which is the equivalent of, so it's about 120 lei, which is the equivalent of £30. So
Okay, yeah.
my sister and her husband, who I went with, they're like, "Oh yeah, we'll come back with the kids because there's a whole kids area." But yeah, I can't explain it. It just has to be gone to. So you just need to get on that flight from Ryanair or whatever, EasyJet, get across the border to Romania, and you're there for less than 100 quid.
Okay, yeah. Send me the link. I'm down.
Yes, yes.
Cool. So thank you for being on this podcast. I appreciate it. For anyone who always joins, the random warm-up questions.
Okay.
The title of a book, what would it be? That is what I was trying to say.
Oh, the title of it. Oh, I don't know, but I guess based on what I've been through in life, I'll probably say I'm a survivor.
I'm a survivor. I
Yeah, a
like
bit of
that.
Destiny Child. Yeah,
Okay.
I guess. Yeah, I'm a survivor. Yeah.
Okay. And what was the last thing you ate?
I had ribs, pork ribs last night with chips and garlic bread and salad because I couldn't be asked to make anything healthy.
That sounds so good. Your husband's a chef, right?
He's my chef, but he's not a chef.
Yeah,
But
but he's
I have groomed him into being his authentic chef self. So he met me being just a good cook, but I call him a chef because he cooks to a standard that I consider to be of chef level. So I'm building him and grooming him into becoming a professional chef.
he absolutely is a chef. I've seen some of your snaps. He absolutely
Yes, he is a chef, right? So yeah, I mean, God willing, the vision is, one day we'll have a restaurant. Like I'm trying to push him. Like he's an amazing cook, amazing cook.
love that. Okay. What was the last thing you wrote about
Mm. In what context?
in any
Like
context?
just wrote down on a piece of
Was
paper.
it an email? Was it in your journal? What was the last thing you wrote about?
Um, so the last thing I wrote about was in my journal. I've recently started therapy, which I don't usually keep journals and stuff, but I recently started therapy, and I'm trying to embrace the idea of journaling. So I wrote to my journal on the flight back to the UK. Yeah, I think that's the last thing I wrote.
Journaling is so underrated. I've been journaling since I was 10 years old. I
Oh wow.
could not live without writing down my thoughts, feelings, emotions. Just I don't know. There's something about journaling that is just so transformational.
I'm learning. No, I am learning. I mean, that is inspirational that you've been doing it for 10 years because I can only imagine going back and seeing the
Since I
things you
was 10.
wrote 15 years ago must be like so fulfilling and so, yeah, I wish I'd started it. I wish I'd done it a long time ago. But hey, I'm starting now.
It's never too late.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay.
So, yeah.
So you have many hats. You are actually no.
Yes.
I tend to like to read people's bio. But actually, who is Sheila? Outside of all the stuff, the law, you are the co-founder of Tiribhoo with your husband.
Yes.
You have
Yes.
many hats, but actually, like putting that aside, who is Sheila?
And you know what? That's such a good question. And I think for me, that's why I've come into your space because I think I'm almost still discovering that. And I think I'm on this journey of becoming, because I do have so many hats and a lot of people know me for different things that I do. But I think having gone through like a life changing event, I am seeing myself in a different light to what I had seen myself based on all those things. I am becoming a new version of myself. So in terms of understanding that, I'd say, I'm a fun loving, outgoing girl who just basically just wants to live my best life. I live my life to its fullest and live in my purpose. And I just love people and I love having fun and whatever brings me joy. I believe that everybody should do what brings them joy. And that's just me. I'm all about living your best life.
Mm. I love that. I love that you talk about becoming and evolving because we don't stay the
Mm,
same. We're never the same people. And when we
yes.
find ourselves being the same, like that's a problem. We're constantly evolving and constantly learning. And actually, like
Yes.
you were last year is not the person that you are now. And
Yes.
recognizing that you are constantly evolving is actually really freeing, I find, because then you can be
Yes.
whoever you want. Like you can really be whoever you want to be in this life.
You really can. And I think there is so much freedom in realizing that and coming off of the bondage of being what other people want you to be or living to a certain standard. Like when you just decide to do what you want, it's like you hold yourself to your own standard and no one really understands what that standard is. So you can just do what you want. And yeah, it's a beautiful space to be in. But that's something that I've only really probably fully embraced in like the last 2, 3 years. So it's a beautiful journey.
And I think there's something so liberating about recognizing that you don't have to be what other people say you should. Like I grew up thinking I wanted to be a lawyer, right?
Yes.
That's because I don't know if I wanted to be a lawyer or I thought it.
Mm,
So actually, when I realized, and I actually did the law, and I realized, actually, maybe not. I don't want to be a lawyer, and I don't know
yeah,
what I need, but I'm just going to go try a bunch of things and figure it out, and really trust that God is going to order my steps, and I'll get
I
there.
hear that.
It's really confusing, but it's so liberating that you don't have to know this is what I
Yes,
do.
what to do. I think for me, it's an interesting thing. I think that's why I feel like I'm becoming more now because I knew I wanted to be a lawyer from a young age. And then I did law and I liked law and I still knew I wanted to be a lawyer. And then I got into a job doing law and I still wanted to be a lawyer and I've liked it. So I haven't had the chance to actually challenge myself because I've kind of done what I've wanted, always thought what I've wanted to do and done it. And then I've entered into this new phase where things have actually not been as certain as they've always been. And that's when I've seen the involvement because I haven't always done what I've known,
Mm,
especially in the last couple of years, I haven't. So it is an interesting thing when you think you want to be something and then everyone holds you to the standard. And then you realize it's not what I want to be. But I'm kind of like the flip reverse where I've kind of done what I wanted to do because no one made me want to be a lawyer. And that's kind of like everybody's standard, but that was my own personal choice and stayed
mm,
in it. And then I'm feeling, okay, and then what? Okay, so I've done that now. And then what? And that's when I realized that actually, no, there's more to all of this than your role or your career or what job you do.
absolutely. So you're a lawyer. How
Yeah.
did you how did you know like that was your thing? Because a lot of people either don't know what they're supposed to be doing and they kind of just go through life wondering or like just trying different things. But then there are the flip, which is people that have always known this is what I want to do and this is what I'm going to do.
Mm,
Did you realize I want to be a lawyer?
I think my character was quite defining of that. I've heard from people in the family and different people that I've always been very loud, very chatty, very outspoken, had my side where I was very argumentative, very like always why, kind of a bit of a talk back. So I kind of knew underlying that I had that character in me to always challenge something or speak on something or be very loud. And it's very interesting because I grew up in school being told I was a loud person in class. Sheila talks too much. Sheila this. Sheila makes noise. And at the time, it was very weird. Like, okay, but what's so wrong about talking too much? I never understood why it was so negative until I kind of said, okay, do you know what? I want to do a job that allows me to just talk as much as I want to talk. And
Mm,
I found my purpose in that. But it was very much, I think it was my character that made me realize that, okay, this is a job that I think suits me. And then as life grew and as I became elder, I just became interested in justice and fighting for justice and just in being in that space. So it just evolved over the years. And I became more cemented in it when I actually got the job. So I guess when I got the job, I didn't really know whether I fully was happy with it. But as that job evolves, I realized that, okay, this is definitely my purpose and my calling in terms of career.
mm. So you realize that you want to study law, you then go on to study law, and then what happens?
So I studied law, and one thing that really annoys me, and it's kind of like a sticking point for me, which I need to let go of, is that I missed out by 0.4% getting a first class. And I actually challenged it. So that was the beginning of me being a lawyer. I challenged the university and I asked them to remark my third year papers, and they said they've marked them and they've marked them again and they can't award any points. So I get 69 points. It was 69.6, which obviously 70% is the first class. So that was very frustrating.
Me,
Um
that's
huh?
actually rounded to the nearest. Surely they could round it to the nearest.
That's what you would think. That's what you would think. But no, it was 69 point something. So that annoyed me. So I kind of left law school with a bit of a hunch on my shoulder, like, like I should have got a first class, da, 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 da. And anyway, so then I started looking for employment. in law firms, and I didn't want to go straight into the LPC route because I just didn't know what I wanted to do. And with law, it's like law and medicine. There's like this expectation that you got to go and do this after you finish, and then this, and the continuous studying and the continuous financial burden of having to do further studies. So I didn't know what I wanted to do when I finished my law degree, and I was like, I'm not going to for the LPC. Not going to get a bank loan to do any of that stuff. I'm just going to try and see if I can get a job in employment, either a law firm or some sort of work experience. And that didn't work out, and I didn't really know where I was going. But then what I decided to do was the New York bar. I had gone to America in my second year of uni to do like an internship for like 2 months. So I kind of had a taste of America. And then I kind of felt like, okay, I think I want to move to America. And so I decided to do the New York bar exams. It was an experience, but torture all at the same time. So the New York bar, for those who were lawyers and wanted to do the New York bar, it's like learning every area of law, cramming it into your head, and doing a 6-hour exam across 2 days. And you just have to know everything. You got to know crime, contract, just everything. Anything you can think about, you have to know it. They don't tell you what topics are going to come up on the exam. It's 300 questions, multiple choice. And it's literally just, you either pass or fail. And so I'd done the New York bar, and I'd done it twice because I failed the first time again by about 0. This time was a high percentage, but it was about 1 point something percent. So I was like, okay, I got this. I'm going to go again. Failed again for the second time. And at that point, I was like, okay, this law thing, it's not going well. And I was really, really demotivated, and I just didn't know kind of like how I was going to start the journey. And I think sometimes in the Black and Asian community, there isn't really that, well, more in the Black community actually, there isn't really that support system of knowing what pathways to take for different career paths. So I had nobody to ask. I didn't know what to do. I just had friends who were saying, we're doing the LPC, and I'm like, well, I'm not going to pay for that. So I was really stuck when I didn't pass the New York bar exams. And then God, I guess at the time, just kind of directed me to the civil service. And so I joined the civil service as like an admin officer. About 2 years after I finished uni, joined as an admin officer, literally doing basic admin work. And then I worked myself up in the department that I originally joined, and then got to the next level above, or whatever managerial level. And then from that, I then took a promotion to go to another department, which is the department that I'm at now. And I took that promotion not even knowing that the job was to go to court. So I just saw this advert for this job, and it just said, presenting officer. And I was like, I don't know what presenting officer is, whatever that is. And I went for the interview. And then when I went for the interview, they were like, you do realize you'll be representing the Secretary of State? And I was like, oh, like, I'm going to be in court. They're like, yeah, you'll be up against barristers and counsel. Like, you're representing the state. And I was just like, okay, this is a bit weird. I've only got a law degree. I haven't actually done my bar. I haven't done my LPC. Like, how is this working? But there are government departments that do that, and that still is the case up till today. And so I joined in that role back in 2015, and basically just cemented myself in that role, built experience, gained more and more experience being an advocate before the courts, and eventually reached a senior level where I now represent the department in the higher courts. And that's basically how I just stayed in my career and stayed really in the same job for the last nearly 10 years.
That's amazing how your story wasn't like a straight, this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to do law, do the bar.
Yeah.
And you kind of just went like here, and like everywhere, but you got to where you needed to go in the end.
Yes. And that's the beauty about life, I guess, is that there isn't a straight path to everything. And I've learned that through my journey. And that's one thing that I try to empower, especially a lot of young kids now, is that there isn't a or B answer into how you achieve your career. There are many ways to get to whatever you consider to be the end goal. And, not to feel demotivated if you are not going on the same path or journey towards a career path as somebody else, because there are many ways to crack an egg. And and it's just empowering people because without that knowledge, everybody feels like, and I did feel like at the time, I haven't got an LPC, I haven't got the bar, oh my gosh, I'm not really a lawyer, like these kind of things. But now, I have amazing reputation with judges, and judges often compliment me on how more experienced I come across than counsel, than people who've gone and done the bar. And so it's not about a certificate, it's not about whatever is written on a piece of paper. It's also about how you carry yourself. And I've learned that, but unfortunately, I've learned it at the end. Maybe, it's not something I knew at the beginning, but it's part of the journey.
And you know what? You said something interesting, and it's something that I also really resonated with, especially when I was at uni. When I was at uni, and people would be talking about wanting to go into law, and they would be reaching out to their contacts or their parents' contacts.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't have that. Like everyone in my circle, in my community, was either a nurse
Yeah.
or social worker.
Yeah.
And that wasn't my, like, that wasn't the, I knew I can barely, I can't even scoop up my own kids like vomit. I can't, I
Yes.
knew that
Yes.
from the nurse, like that's
Yes.
not my thing.
Yeah.
It could never,
Yeah.
I can't do it. I can't even like cut myself. And when I see blood, I start to feel
I
sick.
know.
So I knew that wasn't my path. But then I felt really discouraged when I saw my community and I didn't see
Mm,
expectations of what I could be. And I think that had a massive impact on how I saw myself and what I could achieve or strive for. Because the other
I
counterparts,
agree.
different skin colors to me, had their aunts,
Yes.
their uncles who like had like they were doing internships and they were traveling abroad for interns and all of these things that I.
Yes. Yes. Yeah, I totally agree with you. I think one thing, I really respect my parents for is they never pushed that career path for me in terms of nursing. So my dad done nursing, but then he then went through the IT route, so he's more of an IT consultant within nursing. And my mum is like, no way, never done any nursing. So they never had, I never had that influence directly in my household in terms of doing nursing, but they also didn't put that to me as the only career path. So I think in that sense, I had that blessing that I had the mindset of, well, there's other things to do. I think part of it is the age that I came from Zim. I came when I was practically a baby, so I never really necessarily grew up around a Zim community of people who are all nurses. I had influence from other communities, white friends, etc., who were in different career paths, and so I had that kind of inquisitive mind of trying to explore this path that I've decided to go on. But yeah, I totally agree with you that it's very isolating going on that path, not really having a benchmark or somebody to turn to and say, hey, so if I don't do the LPC, what do I do next? And if I don't get into the bar, like that was hard. It was a hard space to navigate, and it was just down to a lot of research. It was just down to a lot of building relationships with people around me. It was just down to asking questions to people who were in my circle and people that I met through uni, etc. That's how I gathered this information. But again, that's why now for me, my passion is to share this information, especially within the Black people community, people coming up, for them to know that there are other alternative ways. You don't have to go that way, or if you feel like your counterparts have got an advantage over you, you have other advantages that you can utilize.
Mm, mm. And you know what? I remember people saying to me when I first like quietly started saying, I want to study law. I want to study law. People were like,
I love you say quietly.
I think I want to study law. And people would be like, oh, there are no jobs. There aren't any jobs. You can secure a job
mm,
these other fields. Or they'll say, you can't do that with your skin color. Like us
mm,
people, we can't, like that's,
yes,
and it really took
yes,
a lot to like block out that noise. And actually I was like, no, I'm gonna be, I'm gonna try, I'm gonna at least try.
yes, yes, yes. And yeah, it is the skin color, and you can't do that because of your skin color thing is a really hard battle. And for me, it's personally a very hard battle because of the age that I came when I left Zimbabwe. It's a very, like, for me, it's like borderline. I'm like in between two people. I've done a podcast last year with another lady on identity, and I spoke about this a lot in terms of me personally and my identity, because within the Zim community, I know I'm perceived as the British girl because I'm not as Zim as most people because of the age that I came here from Zim. And in the British community, I'm not fully British because I'm still Zimbabwean. And so I grew up a lot of my time with this kind of misidentity because I identify with both communities in very different ways, because I have a very large circle of friends from the British community, because this is where I've been for the last like 32 years. But I also have a very strong family and a strong Zim background. And so this kind of thing of people saying you can't do this because of your skin color didn't always fully resonate with me, because I had a lot of other white friends and I had acceptance from a lot of white, and I was in that community as much as I was in the Zim community. So I think
Yeah.
that part of me is what I appreciate probably now, made me step into these positions and made me apply for certain positions without that thought in my mind, because I didn't come from that full understanding of, oh, I'm different because I'm black, because I was with other people and I was like, well, no, these guys accept me for who I am, even though I am black. And so you guys, you think like that, but I don't 100% agree, unfortunately. And so that, I think, was a stepping stone for me having the confidence to go into certain places without that thought at the beginning of, oh, they look at me a certain way because I'm black. Because I was just like, hey, these are just other people. I've gone to school with some of these guys. They're no different to me.
Yeah. I think you really touched on an interesting subject, which is identity. And I've
Mm,
back from Zimbabwe, and I think I really still struggle. And I remember going through. I'm like very Zimbabwean. Like I'm 100
mm.
Zimbabwean. But I came here when I was like 4 years old. But I'm also like
Mm-hmm.
very British as well. And I often find myself, especially when I go back to Zim, I'm like, I'm Zimbabwean, but when I'm in Zimbabwe, they look at me like you're not one of us.
You
You're
see?
like you are very British. You're Urumurungu is what they say.
Yes, yes,
You
yes,
know? And then when I'm here, I'm not British. I'm black.
yes,
I'm
yes,
Zimbabwean. So
yes.
I definitely grew up with this sense of like, where is my belonging? I'm not
Mm-hmm.
there and I'm not quite here.
Yeah,
And it haven't really like it has an impact, I think.
100%.
Yeah.
Hundred
Yeah.
percent, because I think what it then does do, and what I think it's done to me an extent, which I've acknowledged, which it's all part of this becoming, is that it makes you almost become a people pleaser because you're always trying to fit in because
Mm,
you don't really think you fit in anywhere. So
yeah.
within the Zim community, you're trying to fit in because you're trying to really show them that no, I'm still Zim. Like, come on, man, I'm one of you. And then in the British community, you're trying to fit in and be like, no, but guys, I know I come from Africa, but
British.
I'm still one of you. And it's
I got your passport. I'm British.
you know what I mean? So you're always then almost in this constant battle of trying to just prove to everybody that you fit in with them,
Mm,
rather than just being you. But I think there is a big group of us, and there is a big community of us who are in that position, who have a unique sense of identity because of that almost dual upbringing that we have. And I think it's shared by a few of us, like what you say, when you come from Zim at that age, it's very different to those who are actually born here
yeah.
with Zim parents because they actually have a different whole identity because they're actually born in this country. So they probably, to an extent, probably see themselves as almost fully British. But when you're not born here and you came at a young age, you can't really say you're fully British because actually you were actually born in
No.
the country. Yeah.
People
So
say you're not.
there's a lot of us, I think, that fall in that category. That you were a
Yeah.
unique bunch of people.
Yeah. But it's taken me a long while to really like leverage my unique having both sides. So when I'm in Zim and when I need to, I will use that British card and like
Mm,
anywhere I can, I will put that accent on.
yes.
Because I noticed even some people in Zimbabwe, like the moment they realize you're from England, they treat you
Yes.
different.
Of course. 100%.
And equally, when I'm in England, sometimes there are certain benefits that ethnic minorities will get because
Yes.
they're ethnic
Yes.
minority. So I will put,
Exactly.
I am very African. Like
Yes.
I will put that card. So
Yes.
I've learned to maximize and leverage both sides of me because that's part of who I am. I can't take away the Zimbabwean. I can't take away
Mm,
this is me. I am a,
yes.
I'm a measure of both.
And measure both, exactly. And like what you say in terms of like in the British side, there are a lot of benefits to being an ethnic minority. And this is some of the stuff that I'll touch upon on the 7th of June is that, entering some of these spaces, there are policies out there that they're just trying to meet quotas for diversity. Like they are, if you look at diversity policies across the UK, probably in any sector, there is a gap
Right
out
now.
there for it. Yeah. And so we need to utilize these things in those places where you think you can't go. Believe me, they're probably underrepresented and they're probably screaming for somebody to come and represent. And sometimes we don't go into those spaces because we're scared and we're like, well, who am I to be the representative? But somebody needs to be. And if there's no one there, take up the opportunity because those are the stepping stones into entering into whatever you then see as your pathway, your career, or whatever else. It's entering into those spaces where you can use the diversity element as your stepping stone.
I've seen that a lot, and there's definitely a rise in the whole diversity thing. Literally on application forms on anything, there is a thing at the bottom that literally says, "Please,
Yes,
like, please apply if you're ethnic minority." Like, please, they're begging
basically.
of ethnic minorities to apply for these roles, especially I find
Yes,
leadership roles or roles that are like of skilled service. They need
yes,
that. So
100%.
even if you applied and there was someone that was more qualified, you might just get the job because you're an ethnic minority, and they
That
need
point exactly.
representation.
Exactly that point. And that applies across the board in any
Absolutely,
career, I believe.
absolutely. So yeah, that's when I use and I maximize my ethnic minority badge that I am an African
Yes,
in England.
yes,
Pick me.
yes, 100%.
Okay, so you now study law. At what point do you think there's more to me than law?
I think when I've been in my role for a while, I'd probably say when I've been in my role for about 5 years, I kind of got to the point I was like, okay, I'm comfortable with this. It's earning a decent salary, it's all good. But it's not really doing it for me. And in terms of the law, it's like, okay, I'm comfortable being an advocate. I'm so glad I got this job. I'm getting this experience, appearing before judges and being in court. But it's not really like it's not really fulfilling for me. Like I don't feel like I'm actually adding anything per se to the system or making the system any better or having any really impactful input into the system. And so that's when I decided to look at other ways that I could, still do my law but do it in a more way that's purposeful. And that's when I decided to become a magistrate. That's a voluntary duty. But the impact, and I've seen over the years, the impact that it has, that I'm there again, as I say, as an ethnic minority on the bench, when a defendant or whoever comes in as an ethnic minority, the impact that I have on them, I can see it straight away. It's instant. The eye contact, the body language, everything. I notice the impact that I have just by being on that bench, and me being there as a black person and as a black young woman. It settles certain
Mm,
people when they enter a courtroom, and so that's when I realized that, okay, there's more to this. There's more to this whole system and the wider program here. Like I have an input and I have an impact that I can do, even in my capacity as just Sheila. I have an impact that I can make by doing still what I love, which is law, but in a different way. This is not for money. This is not for I'm like a big shot lawyer. This is actually just for giving back to the community and actually having people feel like the system is representative of them and having people feel like they can come to court and feel like justice is done. And that's when I kind of took my career to the next stage in terms of law and expanding on it and having a bit more of an impactful meaning in my day-to-day work. So yeah, I became a magistrate just before COVID, which was hard at first because obviously I had to do some sittings remotely or do my training remotely. And it was very weird because I didn't really get the usual induction, which I know people have in
mm,
terms of being sworn in. So because it was over COVID, I had my swearing in ceremony just in my living room holding a Bible. So that was a bit that kind of frustrated me because had it not been COVID, I would have had to go to a courtroom and wear a gown and do all the British regalia and stuff. So I didn't get to do that because it was during COVID. But nonetheless, anyway, the experience that I then started gaining from like sitting once I started sitting was just fundamental, like, just the different types of cases and just seeing the impact that I have. And, I'm just there as one person, as a bench of three people. But just being in that space just showed to me that, what, I can make a difference and I can make a difference still doing the career that I love. And so
mm,
that's kind of like the path that I'm on at the moment, being a magistrate and just now being in this space of encouraging more people to be magistrates. And so, again, I think this kind of drive that I have, I'm very goal driven. I'm very like, once I get something, and I think all of us as humans are, but I'm very much like, once I achieve something, I still want more to it. So when I became a magistrate, it was like, after 2, 3 years again, I was like, okay, cool. I've been doing this for a while. Yeah, it's all right. But I want more. Like, I don't feel like I'm doing enough. Like, this is still not giving me enough satisfaction, so to speak. So then I applied to be a member of the advisory committee. And so the advisory committee is essentially the board of magistrates and lay members who hire other magistrates. And I was then successful in that. And so now I became aware and have insight into what criteria is actually being looked for when people are applying to become magistrates. What are the what's the aspects and the attributes that people need to demonstrate, and I'm now aware of what's the marking scheme, all those things that are behind a process and a system that eventually brings out the result of having this magistrate. I was now aware of it and I'm now part of that committee, and so part of my purpose in that role is to go out into the community and encourage more people to be magistrates. And again, we go back to this diversity thing. The magistrates and the judiciary in the United Kingdom as a whole have a major issue because about 1%, no, so about 12% of the
mm.
judiciary are black. 12% of the judiciary across the board, that's in all sectors of
Yeah.
law, are black. And yet that's unrepresentative of the quantity of ethnic minorities in the country as a population. And so it
Mm,
means by default, a claimant or a defendant, when they go into court, is unlikely to be judged by a peer or someone who they will consider a peer because there isn't enough judges who are their peers or who would understand their background within the judiciary. And
yeah.
so this is like now my driving force. This is like where I'm at now to say we have to be part of the change we want to see. We have to be in these spaces where we say we're underrepresented, where we say it's not fair, where we say, oh, it's us against them. Like, if we don't enter into these spaces, we cannot change things, we cannot change the narrative, and we can't essentially allow people to feel like their system is benefiting them rather than always being against them.
Mm.
And a part of that is just being in the space and just knowing what's going on in the space.
Do you know, I can literally feel your passion on this. Have you ever
I might like starting at the screen.
No, but I love it though. I love that. And have you ever been in those spaces where you're the, I guess, part of the 12% and you felt like, I don't belong here, or like I feel
Uh,
left out, or I like, I'm just, ugh, this was weird and this was uncomfortable.
do you know what? As part of the application process to join the advisory committee, I had to be honest about that. And that was actually a different style of interviewing because, as I said, my main job, I'd had it like nearly 5 years prior. So I hadn't been interviewed. I've been through an interviewing process for a long time. And when I was reading up the notes and kind of reading up practice on how to apply for this advisory committee member role, I realized that actually all they wanted was for you to be honest. One, to be honest about your experience, about how you found things as you become a magistrate, and two, what impact you think you have by being part of the committee. And it was the most uncomfortable interview that I've ever had and could ever have, because they probed me and they probed me and they probed me because I mentioned that I felt awkward and in the minority when I walked into a room, and they probed me. So I just said it as a fleeting statement in answering one of the questions, and they probed me and they kept on probing me and they said, "What do you mean by that?" Because obviously we would hope to think that nobody feels that way, and I had to really assess where the feeling came from. And the truth is, what I then said in the interview and what I then came to realize is that, yes, there have been many times when I have walked into court at 9:30 and I'm sitting to magistrate and I walk into the room and it's all older white men and the only black girl and I felt inferior. Yes, those times have been there many times, often, nearly every time. But what I acknowledge is that the feeling actually predominantly started with me more than it started with them. It's the fact that I walked in and felt that way.
Yeah.
They hadn't yet even projected anything to me yet. I just walked in already feeling like, oh, here we go. That was my own thing, and so I was building that feeling and emotion within myself without having yet actually received anything negative for me to feel that emotion. And so when I realized that, and as I was giving the answer in the interview, as I was almost giving myself therapy, and I said to myself, but yes, what I acknowledged is that I just needed to be the one that was open and willing to learn and willing to integrate. And I realized that actually my colleagues were not actually that bad. They weren't actually isolating me. Even yes, they were having their banter amongst themselves. They were not actually intentionally excluding me. I'd almost excluded myself. And so
Mm,
once I started just joining in the conversations or just speaking or saying my part, actually that feeling subsided and it wasn't as strong as it was the first days when I walked in. And so now when I walk in, I could be like, "Oh, you're right, John. How you doing? You right, mate? Yeah, good for the day." I could do that freely. I'm not walking in the room saying, "Oh my gosh, here it goes," and I'm not starting the day with that emotion within me. I'm starting on a lighter note, and then it allows me to actually have the confidence to exert myself. Because now, when me and these two guys are on the bench, and I'm saying, "No, I don't agree with that. Actually, guys, we can't find that evidence to be, or whatever it is that we're doing," I have more confidence and authority in saying that. Because what I found at the beginning is that when I didn't have that confidence, or when I felt that feeling that I felt, I would then kind of hold back into liberation. And so
yeah.
decisions of magistrates, they have to be unanimous. And if I'm the one person that's going to have an impact and I'm sitting there like, "Oh, yeah, I just agree with what they say," then I'm basically, that kind of cancels out the whole point of me being there. And so I realized that, for me to speak up and for me to actually be effective, I had to actually be the one that first took off that stone or that thing that made me feel that emotion when I walked into that room.
Mm. And you're talking a lot about inferiority complex, and this is something that I've had to work through myself, especially being a leader or being a manager in spaces where you're the only like you are the only, either you're the only woman or you're the only black
Mm,
woman entering in a space where it's
mm,
predominantly white men. And I used to think, oh, like I felt uncomfortable, and I would feel like
mm,
I don't belong in this room because I'm different, and that
yeah.
has an impact on how you show up, on what you say or what you don't say. And I think
Mm-hmm.
it really took a lot of working through. Actually, I'm in this room because I deserve to be in this room, and actually like working through the imposter syndrome and working through the limiting beliefs and working through
Yes.
the inferiority complex, because I,
Yes.
I'm creating that inferiority complex. Like I'm creating that they're superior than me because they're white and they're men, and I'm a black,
Mm,
putting myself here and I'm putting
yes.
here, and therefore like I wouldn't speak up sometimes, or I wouldn't really say my opinion, or I'd like tone it down a bit, but
You don't
actually
want to be the angry black woman.
I'm the stereotype of being that angry black woman. But actually I realized
Yeah.
in those spaces there's something that I have that they don't, and it's a disservice
Mm,
for me to not speak or not to share my opinion or my voice because
mm,
it doesn't sound like them. It doesn't have to sound like
mm,
them. And I think that's like so liberating that actually I add flavor
yes.
and I add something that they don't have and they would actually appreciate.
Yes.
if I had the
Yes.
confidence to say it.
Yes, yes, you said that. You said that so well. That is exactly it. It's because sometimes you don't realize that they actually seek some of what you have. They want the knowledge. They want your input. They want to know your experiences. You know, like when I went to court and I came back and I told them I went to Zimbabwe, they were asking me all about it. So no, I'm not saying everybody people's experiences are different, but they do want some of these things. And if we shy away from it and we put ourselves in a position where we're inferior, we are limiting so many things, and we're limiting ultimately growth, and we are limiting our ability as humanity to move forward from this issue of division through race.
That's such an interesting conversation. So much to think about. Okay,
Yes.
we will save it for the 7th of June. Um,
Yes.
okay, so wrapping up, you have done all of these things. You're a stroke survivor.
Yeah, I
At what
am.
age did you have a stroke?
So I had a stroke 2 years and 10 days to the date. So in 2023 when I was 33. So I turned 35 this year.
And how, like, just how?
So I had a stroke which was caused by high blood pressure. I've known that I've had high blood pressure for some years because it was diagnosed in about my mid 20s. At
Mm,
the time, I was still living in Birmingham with my parents, and I would have like tests done in terms of why I'm hypertensive, and there wasn't really any real conclusive outcome from the doctors as to why my cholesterol was fine. All those things that they checked, heart was fine. Essentially, it was kind of ruled down to almost like genetics. So my dad and his sisters and all that side of the Simbi family basically all have high blood pressure, and so it was almost seen as a genetic thing why I have it. Um, what led to the stroke and what contributed to me then ultimately having the stroke was poor management of the blood pressure. So when I moved and I bought my house here in Nuneaton, I changed my GPs and stuff like that. And when I got married to my husband, we informed them that we want to obviously start having kids, etc. And they said that the medication that you're on, some of it is not suitable for you to be on if you fall pregnant. And so we just need to change your medication and kind of see what tablets work for you. And that was kind of like, yeah, the beginning of the nightmare. But yeah, so they were chopping and changing my medication. Obviously, we're in lockdown. I'm not really being seen by a GP. So all of this kind of checking of blood pressure is happening over the telephone. And yeah, essentially, it got to a stage where I had a referral that was outstanding in October 22. The doctor had essentially said, we're going to refer you to cardiology, just do some more tests again. Because obviously the last ones you got done were when you were in Birmingham, so we need to get some tests done again about why you have high blood pressure. That referral was outstanding for about 6 months, from October leading up to March to April of 2023. The doctor then decided that he wanted to put a 24-hour monitor watch on me just to see whether my blood pressure is high all the time. So I went into the GP surgery, had this watch fitted, came and dropped it back the next day. While I was in the surgery, I asked the nurse to take my blood pressure. It was high that day, but I've known it to be high. So I'm just like, hey, it's cool, whatever, we'll see. And she's like, we'll see when your watch comes back. It was like 250 over 120, which I know is like totally a big no, but that's what it was the day that I went to the GP. So she said, it's okay, bring back your watch tomorrow and we'll see what the results are saying and the doctor will review it. So that was all good. That was fine. Brought back the watch the next day. This was a Wednesday. Thursday and Friday, chilled. Saturday, I went to a party. One of my husband's family members was having a traditional wedding. So he was marrying a Zambian girl. So it was a Zambian traditional wedding. So I was at this party and I lived my best life. Fine, normal. This was in Leeds. On the Sunday, went to go visit my cousin who lives in Huddersfield. Totally chilled. We chilled at her house the whole day. Absolutely the most relaxed day. I can't even say I was stressed that day. We then drive back from Huddersfield to Nottingham. I'm the one driving. And that's about a 70-mile, 80-mile journey. I was on the motorway, perfectly fine. As we enter into Nottingham, which is where my husband's from and where his family are, we were going to sleep at his sister's. But as we enter Nottingham, I say to my husband, "Oh, I've got like pins and needles in my left hand," and he's like, "What do you mean you got pins and needles?" I was like, "I got pins and needles. It feels weird." And he's like, "Okay, cool." And he just looked at me weird, and we just carried on driving. And he's like, "Anyway, let's go get some food." So we stopped at McDonald's drive-through before we went to his sister's, and left McDonald's drive-through. And we're like, "Okay, cool." We're like literally about 5 minutes from his sister's house. And then he's like, "You do realize that you're mounting the curb as you go around the corners?" And I was like, "What do you mean? Like you're mounting the curb?" And I was like, "What do you mean I'm mounting the curb?" I'm talking to him. We're actually having like a mini argument. He's like, "Anyway, pull over, pull over. I'll take over driving." I was like, "Okay, cool." So he came round to the side to take over. And as he's opened the driver's door for me to come out, I've just given way and I've collapsed and my whole left side is gone. And in that moment, because I've known that I'm hypertensive, I knew straight away. I was like, babe, I'm having a stroke. This is the stroke. I'm having a stroke. I'm having a stroke. He's, bless him, he had no idea what a stroke was, never heard of it in his life, none the wiser. And he's like, what the hell? And like, for him, I think it was very weird to just be like, 1 minute, you're walking, the next minute, you know, like literally within a second. And then he called the ambulance. Ambulance came, took me to Nottingham Queen's Medical Hospital. They wanted to operate on me. They wanted to open my brain. I was unconscious, and my husband at that stage had to make a decision whether that should happen or not.
Bearing in mind,
Basically,
you're like
because
married, right?
we're newly married, we literally been married for like 9 months. So he had to make this decision whether they should operate on me. But he saved my life because, to some extent, what I've realized or known since then is that a lot of people who've had operations following a stroke, they've actually had a worse recovery and have struggled to recover because of an operation. So the fact that he pleaded with them not to operate me, I think, is like fundamental in how I've recovered. And so yeah,
Wow.
they said, okay, cool, we'll try not to operate on her. We'll just try to see if we can reduce her blood pressure naturally. And then they had me on a drip. I don't know how long I was unconscious, so about 2 days, I think. And then they just said my blood pressure started coming down naturally. And then yeah, I guess on the third day, fourth day, I was conscious and realized that I'm in hospital and realized that my whole left side doesn't move. And
Wow.
yeah, yeah, it's crazy saying it, but yeah, that's how it happened.
And what was recovery like for you?
Recovery is still going. Recovery, I can say now, I guess 2 years later, recovery is going to be lifelong. Recovery is what I make it every day. At the beginning, was a different story. At the beginning, I was like, so doctor, how quickly are you getting out of here? So am I going to be walking tomorrow? Like, what's going on? And I remember, like, when I was in Nottingham Hospital, I used to like ask every day, okay, so like, how long is this going to take? So like, when am I going to be walking again? And they would probably look at me like, this girl, she's a bit crazy. She doesn't realize that straight doesn't work like that. And then I got transferred. I had to get transferred twice, obviously, because Nottingham is not our home area. I had to get transferred to Coventry. And then from Coventry, I then got transferred closer to home to George Eliot Hospital. And that whole time, I kept on asking them, okay, so am I going to be walking by the time I get to the next hospital? And they're like, Sheila, this is, stroke is not that simple. This is all about your neurons to your brain and the signals. It all depends on how long it's going to take. We can't tell you. People are different. Yes, you're young, and that's an advantage. But so you could never know the answer. And coming from a place where I want definitive answers to everything, this was like the most challenging time of my life, just not knowing the answer. If you told me if you do this, you're going to walk in a year, that was like for me a definite answer. Or you're definitely not going to walk. I feel like I would have preferred to have known that. But the fact that they kept on saying we can't tell you what your recovery is going to look like because everybody's recovery is different, it was just such a weird space to be in. And yeah, I just had to get to a stage at some point when I just realized that I've got to fight for this because there is no blueprint. Recovery is whatever I make recovery to be. And so after like the first few weeks and I guess the first few months of feeling a bit sorry for myself and oh, here I am, I kind of like, okay, cool. What we're gonna do to get to the next stage of getting better. And I had amazing physiotherapists. They would come to my house twice a day. So one will come and do the arm, one will come and do the leg, and they were doing that for a good solid 2 months. In 2023, and that was like the acceleration of my recovery. So we would like do like menial tasks, like how to lift up a glass, and things that you don't realize as a human are like subconscious. Like I had to start consciously thinking about how to do them. And I just realized that, okay, the more I do this, the more I can recover. And the more they pushed me and the more they motivated me, the more I just started to realize the power I had within myself. And I would just, every single day, I would just try little things, little things, little things. And I would just get stronger and stronger and stronger. And so even up to now, I'm still doing things that I couldn't do yesterday. Like it's almost like every day is constant recovery. Every day is constantly learning a new task. As a girl, it's like the small things, like putting on your earrings. Like you don't even realize that these things are like so subconscious because obviously that requires your finer dexterity and all these random things that I started learning about the human body. But it's also fascinating. And so when I said at the beginning that I'm on the stage of becoming, it's almost like I've been reborn, both spiritually and just in life, because I was the Sheila who I was for the 30 years before, done all these things, done my law, done all that. And now I've become a new Sheila because it's like I've become Sheila 2.0 after the
Yeah.
stroke. And like I'm relearning a new version of myself. While I'm doing the physical relearning of things, it's like I'm relearning a whole new way of being who I am. And so, yeah, recovery for me is continuous and will probably be forever.
And how was that process like waking up? Well, firstly, just being a girl being newly married, um, and like you being the I'm in law and I'm traveling. I'm literally just a girl. To you waking
mm,
in hospital and realizing that you have lost use of your whole, like your whole left side.
yeah. It was, if I'm honest, I think maybe through trauma, I've probably blocked out the moment when I realized, because I don't really actually know the moment that I did realize that I'm not walking. But I know that obviously the days when I started to do like physiotherapy, I didn't really register at that point that it's potentially going to take as long as it did. So again, because at the beginning I thought, okay, yeah, I've had a stroke, I get it, yeah, at least I've woken up. I think at the beginning I thought, at least I've woken up. At least I'm actually conscious. At least, I remember my husband. And again, for him, he's told me that, the first few days when I was unconscious and he would watch me, his biggest fear was, is she actually going to remember me when she wakes up? Because we've only been married for like a hot second. Like, she might just wake up and be like, sorry, who are you? And so his fear looking at me was, I'm not going to remember him when I wake up. And so this kind of thing about gratitude in life is so important, and appreciating the small things is so important. This is what Tiribhoo is all about. Because when I woke up and he saw that I remembered him, and when I woke up and realized that, oh, okay, I'm still kind of still Sheila, like I've still got my cognitive, I can still talk, like that became like the rest of it was like this a minor issue. And as time has gone on and I've met other stroke survivors, me not being able to fully walk or run or do things on my left side is so minor, because some people have lost speech permanently. Some people, their cognitive function is gone. So I know one of the biggest worries that I had in hospital was my cognitive function. And I remember saying to the doctor, look, I'm a lawyer. Like, I need to remember the law. Like, I can't afford to not remember what I did at work last week. I can't afford not to know the case law. I'm like really respected in my job. Like, I'm one of the best lawyers that they have. Like, I need to remember this stuff. And, again, because of the uncertainty, they couldn't promise me anything. But what they did do is they started doing very intensive cognitive tests on me. So they would do like cognitive tests where they would say to you, we're going to put 30 numbers on a page scattered. So they're like pre-made exercises that they do for stroke survivors. Like they'll put like numbers 1 to 50 on a page and say, we want you to join the dots one in sequence. So 1 to 2, 2 to 3, 3 to 4, and see how quickly you can do it. So at the time in hospital, it was like, this is stupid. What's this gonna do to help me get back to being a lawyer? But I've appreciated over time that it was part of checking whether my brain actually still remembers things and has that kind of cognitive function of remembering and retaining information. And so once I realized that, okay, the brain still works, it still knows how to do count from 1 to 50 and everything, the physical side was a minor. And that's kind of how that's pulled me through the recovery of my physical side. Because once I knew that I can still remember my work, once I knew that I haven't forgotten people, I haven't forgotten names, my speech is still there. I mean, I'm talking fast right now. People who have a stroke are commonly known for slurring. And so the fact that those things came back to me, the physical side was like, yo, that's minor.
And you know what? So like I've really enjoyed seeing your journey, even online, how you went through the whole physio thing. And like I remember the first time I saw you go on holiday post stroke, I was like, this girl is
Yes.
going on a holiday. Like
Yes.
anything stop you? You still going on holiday like you were before, still doing the
Yes.
things that you were doing before. You weren't there like, oh, woe is me. I'm never gonna do it again. I'm just gonna sit down
Mm,
and just be a stroke survivor for the rest of my life. Like you are out there still
yeah.
doing, still focusing on the magistrates thing and still building your brand of Tiribhoo and
Yes.
still doing the thing. And that's
Yeah.
really admire that.
No, thank you. You know what? I think in life it is just about. That's why I say it's what you make it, and that's what
Yeah.
Tiribhoo is all about. Tiribhoo is, you're Zimbabwe. Tiribhoo means we are good, and the thing about Tiribhoo, I'm sure we'll touch on it more on the 7th. How we started it in terms of me and my husband is we started it as just a random project. We were dating. It was lockdown. We're a lockdown couple, so we met in lockdown. Couldn't go out to dinner. Couldn't do any of that stuff. No fancy restaurants or whatever. No cinema dates. And so we kind of got to this stage in like lockdown where we're like, okay, we need to kind of know like, yeah, we love each other. We're in the honeymoon phase. Yeah, you're cute. I like you. Yeah, yeah, yeah. But are we actually going to work? Like, do we work together as a couple? Are we compatible? And so we decided to start this whole thing. At first, when we thought about it, we just said like, let's just start a dropshipping business because that's what we're looking at online. We're in lockdown, so dropshipping looked like the easiest thing to start. So we were like, let's just start a dropshipping business and let's just see how it goes. Let's just play around with the IT. And work and look on the websites and stuff. And that's how we started it. And it was very random. And then I was like, okay, but what we're gonna call this business? And then I didn't have any ideas. And then one day, randomly, my husband was like, let's just call it Tiribhoo. I don't really know how he even thought of it, But that's how we came up with it. And I was like, okay, yeah, I get it. Tiribhoo is good. It's positive. And we were like, yeah, we're in COVID. We're in lockdown. Let's encourage people to be positive. At that time, that's what it was about. It was like, we're in lockdown. It's miserable. Let's encourage people to be more uplifted. And, we're going to come out of lockdown. We're going to be fine. Don't worry. Like, we're going to get out of this thing. Let's just tell people go to Tiribhoo. That's how we started it. And I was like, okay, cool. But then we can't just say Tiribhoo because like a lot of people don't know what Tiribhoo means. And then we're going to have to explain to everybody what Tiribhoo means. We need like a dual name. And then that's when we're like, okay, so we'll have Tiribhoo and we'll have We Move. Because again, goes back to that issue of identity. We are in between two places. So Tiribhoo is like the Zim way of saying I'm good. The We Move is like the British way of saying I'm good. Like when everyone's saying something like, yeah, we move, we move. So like, okay, cool. So we're just going to combine these two things because they mean kind of like the same thing. Um, and that's how we started Tiribhoo. But at the time, we didn't really have a message. We had the message of the positivity, but I don't think we had the substance. And now what the stroke done automatically was gave us substance. And so in that moment when we were going through this recovery, both me and my husband, we were like, okay, but God made us start this thing before we even knew pain. So there's no way that we can go through this situation negative when we've got a whole brand that says to the ball like we're gonna have to be good because that's what we've been saying all along. It's just that we were saying it before the reason came to say it. And so it was
Wow.
like it was ingrained in us. It was like it was ingrained in us, and yet we didn't know that it was gonna be shown that it had to be ingrained in us. And so, back then when we were going to like Zimfest and putting our stall, it was awkward because like, yeah, we're just showing our brand, but we're just like, yeah, just buy our stuff. But the people are probably like, yeah, and who are you? Why should I buy your top? Yeah, to the ball, yeah, whatever. But like the stroke gave us purpose, and that's why for me, I always say that for me, my life now is better than my life before the stroke, regardless of the fact that yes, I've got physical mobility issues that I'm still doing on my left side. I have way more purpose now than I had before I had my stroke. And so now Tiribhoo to us is like we live Tiribhoo. Like Tiribhoo is what we are on a daily basis. Like no matter what we go through, we are good. Like we're calm, we move, we keep it moving. And that's really like how me and my husband live our lives. So even if we have an argument about finances or something, it's like, okay, yeah, we get it. Like we need to work that out. But we move and we carry on and we want the next conversation. We'll talk about something else. We are about evolving and constantly just saying we don't stay in the same position forever. No matter what you're going through, you will be good. Because what if you're a child of God and you believe that God has got you, then you're going to be good. There's no need to keep on dwelling on something. You're good.
That is so inspiring. So your brand isn't even just about just being a brand. Like there is purpose and meaning behind it.
Yes, I mean, there's always been purpose and meaning behind it. As I said, it started during COVID. It was just about positivity, but it's
Yeah.
built more purpose and meaning because we've now both gone through something that we can come forward and say, this is what we mean when we're saying to the ball. So when you're wearing it, when you're wearing a jumper and it says we move, yeah, it's just a hoodie. It's no different to any other hoodie. But for us, it's like it's up to you. You can choose to wear other brands. You can choose to wear Nike or Adidas. It's calm. But Nike and Adidas, what does it mean to you? Is it just a brand or does it have a meaning? Whereas what we're saying is we have a meaning. So when you're wearing what we are making, it's with meaning. But I think for us now, it's less about the clothes. Like we don't really generate that many sales from the clothes per se. So it's not about the clothes anymore. It's about the message. It's about the brand. It's about what we're trying to say to people about how they need to channel their mindset to get through difficult situations.
Oh my gosh. Thank you so much, Sheila. I
Thank
think
you.
like this has just made me even more excited about the 7th of June. I'm extremely excited to have you as one of the speakers on
Thank
the
you.
7th, where we are having the new season Influential Women event from 12 to
Yes.
5 in Leicester. And I'm looking forward to everything that you're going to share. Like, we haven't even spoken. There's a lot I wanted to talk about.
I know.
You bought a whole house by yourself. Like you were out here driving the latest cars by yourself. You didn't wait for a man to come and say, right, you bought a house. Like, anyway, 7th of
Yeah, 7th of June. Yeah. We got too much. No, thank you so much. Honestly, Rhonda, you know what? Thank you so much. And thank you for a time like this for coming into my life. Because honestly speaking, as I said to you, I wasn't sure how to say my story or what my story was. But your space is for people like me. It's for people like me who want to say their story, who want to say, this is what I am, this is what I've been through, but this is what life can still be. And just share it with other people that, you can still be tough and say, thank you for creating that space. And I genuinely can't wait until the 7th.
Amazing. Thank you, Sheila.
Thank